Welcome to UGC lecture series in computer science on software engineering. We are seeing a series of lectures. In this session, we will be discussing a case study on design and architectural design. First of all, let us see the case. So, here let us consider the case study as library management system. I suppose you would have visited many different libraries, so I suppose it will be easy for you to know about this or to study about this case. The project is related to the storage of information regarding the library. Library is a place with huge collection of books. It is a place from where the students and the faculties will take books for their reference. But the maintenance of keeping the records of issuing and borrowing is difficult if you use a normal book as a registry. Library management system helps in maintaining the information regarding the issuing and borrowing of books by the students and the faculty members. There will be different limitations on the number of days that the book can be renewed. The existing library has huge collection of books and it is difficult for the users to locate the position of the book. Now, we are supposed to create a solution wherein the users will be able to locate the exact location of the book, that is the row and the column in which the book is present, and the software created should simplify the work of the librarian. So, as far as my dear students, we will be discussing the design issues involved in creating this particular case study. So, the primary objective of this case study is you need to study the case perfectly before going into the design concepts. Now, let us see what is a good software design. A good software design that just focuses on design principles that make it easy to make changes to parts of the software without breaking its functionalities. A good software should be reusable. Now, let us see the types of software design. There are several different types of software design. They are abstraction, pattern, modularity, refactoring, product design, interface design, and visual design. As far as this abstraction, pattern, modularity, and refactoring are said to act as a base for designing, whereas this product design, interface design, and visual design will be useful when we are going to submit it or when you are going to get the approval from the customer. So, let us see what abstraction is. An abstraction is the act of representing essential features without including the background details or explanation. My dear students, you might be aware, when you are fond of reading a novel, many people, they will not be getting time to read the entire novel. So, what they do is they just read the gist of the novel which is available at the back side of the cover page. So, it is similar over here too. That is called as abstraction. So, I repeat it again. Abstraction is the act of representing essential features without including the background details or explanation. So, whatever is crisp is taken as an abstraction. A software design pattern is general, reusable solution to a commonly occurring problem within a given context in software design. Now, let us see what is a modularity and what is refactoring about. Modularity refers to the concept of making multiple modules first and then linking and combining them to form a complete system. Modularity enables reusability and minimizes duplication. Refactoring. What is refactoring? Refactoring is a disciplined technique for restructuring an existing body of code, altering its internal structure without changing its external behavior. So, whatever changes that you make internally, it should not affect the external working of the system. It should not affect the output of the system. The output should remain the same, but the efficiency has to be increased. So, how do you increase the efficiency? By checking the codes internally. So that is called as refactoring. Now let us see the steps to effective project design. First step is you need to define a project goal. You are supposed to determine the outcomes, objectives, and or the deliverables. You are supposed to identify the risk factors, constraints available, and the assumptions that you need to take out when you are going to do your project implementation. So before that, you are supposed to prepare a visual aid. You are supposed to jolt down your budget criteria, and you are supposed to determine approval and monitoring processes. You can use proper project design documentations. So these are some of the steps to have an effective project design. Now let us say what a project design is. A project design is an early phase of the project where a project's key features, structures, criteria for success, and major deliverables are all planned out. The point is to develop one or more designs which can be used to achieve the desired project goals. Now, what is the design process in terms of architecture? How it has been done? The design process is an approach for breaking down a large project into manageable chunks. Architects, engineers, scientists, and other thinkers use the design process to solve a variety of problems. Architectural design describes the basic software structure by separating functional areas into layers. It depicts how a typical software system might interact with the users, external systems, data sources, and services. Now, let us see what an architectural pattern is. An architectural pattern is a general reusable solution to a commonly occurring problem in software, which is also called as in software architecture within a given context. Architectural patterns are similar to software design patterns but have a broader scope. Some architectural patterns have been implemented within the software framework. Now let us see the architectural styles involved. As far as the architectural styles are concerned, architectural style is related to a taxonomy. A taxonomy of architectural style usage is introduced which serves to design new software development, in the sense we have the new software framework or the new software lifecycle models such as agile software development lifecycle model, which is a heavyweight model wherein the agile software development methods that employ architectural styles. Architectural style to refer to high level design patterns. The software uses a pattern or an architectural style where the pattern is a reusable solution for any problems faced during the software design and development, while the architectural style is the structure of the software based on which the design is created. Then the software uses a pattern or an architectural style where the pattern is a reusable solution for any problem faced during software design and development, while the architectural style is the structure of the software based on which the design is created. A software architecture must describe its group of components, their connections, interactions among them, and deployment configuration of all components. The unified modeling language, which is popularly called as UML in short, is one of the object oriented solutions used in software modeling and design. So now let us see what a structural diagram is. So as far as the design diagrams are concerned, the UML is concerned, it is broadly classified into two groups. One is called as a structural diagram, other one is said to be a behavioral diagram. The structural diagram works closely with the coding part, that is, it is similar to the white box testing. I suppose you would have studied about white box testing and black box testing. What is a white box testing? The white box testing is also called as glass box testing, wherein the tester will be given access to the coding. So he can do the coding part, he can find the bug or the error, and then he can as well check the code, and he can directly correct it in the code, and he can re-execute it. That is a work of the white box testing. Whereas in the case of black box testing, which is called as a behavioral kind of testing, wherein the outer behavior, the working nature of a particular software is being tested, whereas the coding part is not being tested. The tester will be checking whether a particular software is working or not. If it is not working, he will just like that, he will write a report saying that this is not working, wherein he will not be having an access what caused this error to occur. So this is because he does not have an access to the codes. So such a type of testing, you call it as black box testing. Similarly, in the case of design diagrams, this design diagram broadly classified into two groups, such as structural diagram, other one is behavioral diagram. The structural diagrams represent the static aspect of a system. These static aspects represent those parts of a diagram which forms the main structure, and structural diagrams are usually stable. These static parts are represented by class diagrams, interface diagram, object diagram, components, and nodes. The structural diagram can also be subdivided into as follows. One is class diagram, component diagram, deployment diagram, package diagram. Next is about the behavioral diagrams. What is a behavioral diagram? Which will actually say the flow of the work. So this behavioral diagram basically captures the dynamic aspects of a system. Dynamic aspects are basically the changing or moving parts of a system. The UML, which is nothing but the Unified Modeling Language, has the following types of behavioral diagrams. 1 is the use case diagram, 2 is the sequence diagram, 3 is the state chart diagram, 4 is the activity diagram. As well, you can have an access to the collaboration diagram too, which is also one of the behavioral diagram. So my dear students, let us correlate the concepts that whatever we have studied in this session with the case study. So what is our case? I suppose you might be remembering the case is related to creation of the library management system. In the library management system, we are supposing if you are going to borrow a book, the librarian, when he is going to issue the book, he should have the issuing ID, that is, as a user you are supposed to have an ID, so which will be entered by the librarian, and he will be entering the issue date and the date of return. So similarly, whatever aspects that the librarian does in a manual way will be done in an automated way. So let us now discuss briefly about the design concepts that are required to create that particular library management system. First, let us discuss about the use case diagrams. My dear students, you might be aware of the use case diagrams as you have studied this in the earlier sessions. You have the actors. The actors are represented as a sticky man, and the communications are represented using arrows. So you have a borrower, and the borrower communicates to the librarian. The borrower is a person like you and me who wants to get a book from the library. So he takes a book from the library rack and he communicates to the librarian. So the librarian, in turn, he makes the reservation, he checks the reservation. If it has been reserved, he will tell that it has already been reserved. If it has not been reserved, or if you had made prior request on reservation, then he will be removing the reservation criteria, and then he will be lending the item, and when he is going to remove the reservation, he will be having an access to lend the item, and then he will as well give the return date. Then what else the librarian will do? What is that will be done on the server part, the maintenance part? It will be removing and updating the title. And supposing if a new book has come in, if new volumes of book has thronged into the library, as in our case we said it is a huge library, so if many different volumes have come to our library, then it is the duty of the librarian to type in all the details of the new volumes that has procured in the library. Then he will be using a system. So in this system he will be updating the title with the newer volumes or the newer versions of that particular textbook available, or he may have access even to remove the old titles. Then he will be adding the new title with new author names. He has an access to remove the item too. He as well adds an item, and he can add the borrower details too. So all these details are being done by the librarian. This librarian and the borrower are called as actors. Henceforth it has been given with a sticky man, and the communication are being given with the arrows. Then next diagram is about the sequence diagram. As far as the sequence diagram is concerned, again kindly relate with these diagrams that you have studied in the previous sessions. Now we are going to incorporate those diagrams with respect to our case study. That is the prime motive of this particular session. So as far as the sequence diagram is concerned, we have a librarian, and you have a book, and you have member records, as well you have the transaction details and the billing details for collecting fines. So the librarian will be checking whether this particular member is a valid member, or whether this particular member has an account in his library. So he will be validating the member with the member records, and then he will be get to issue the books if the data is correct. Then he will be creating a transaction report, as well he will be creating a bill which will have the due date of renewal. Then if the book is not been returned within the stipulated due date, then he will be collecting fine. So he will be calculating the fine, and then he will be collecting the fine. So he will be adding fine and the member details, and this will be stored in the billing details, and then he will be giving about the fine details, and after collecting the fine he will be updating the book status, and then as well he will be updating the member records. So this is about a sequence diagram. Now let us see about the collaboration diagrams. In the collaboration diagram, it is similar to your sequence diagram, wherein you have the library, book, transactions, bill, and the member records are being arranged, wherein it is being numbered in sequential order, wherein he has to be validate the member, and then it goes to get issue details, and then get member type, create the member, and then calculate fine, add fine and member details. If the fine has been paid, fine paid details, update the book status, and then update the member record. There are 9 different transactions that are to be carried out, and that are being listed in this collaboration diagram. Next, let us see about the class diagram. The class diagram, we have a class name called as book. Book is a class name, wherein you have attributes and methods, attributes and functions. So the attributes are book ID, author name, price of the book, rack number, status of the book, whether it is available or not, edition of the book, date of purchase of the book. And the functions that are to be noted down for creating, for when people are going to do their implementation part is display book details and update status. And the other class name is librarian, wherein the attributes are name and password. The functions that are used are search book, verify member, issue book, calculate fine, create bill, return book. Then in the case of transaction is one other class name, wherein the attributes are transaction ID, member ID, book ID, date of issue, due date, and the functions are create transaction, delete transaction, retrieve transaction. And then after creating, he creates the librarian class creates a bill. So the attributes are bill number, date, member ID and amount, and the functions are bill create and bill update. So this is being referred to the transaction class. So everything has been interrelated. So if the bill has been paid, then the name of the class is called member record, wherein the attributes are member ID, type, date of membership, number of books issued, maximum book list, name, address and phone number. The function names are retrieve members, increase book issue, decrease book issue and pay bills. So all these things have been related because everything is being done for the borrower. Who is the borrower? You, the students, and people like me, the faculty, are said to be the borrowers. So that is also represented over here. So this represents the class diagram. Next, let us see about the state chart diagram. In the state chart diagram, you have a student faculty login, wherein you are supposed to enter the user ID and password. If the user ID and password is said to be correct, it goes into the main screen, wherein you will be given the access to search the book. If the book is found, you will be requesting the book, and then you will be returning back the book at a specified due date, and this request you will be placing it to the librarian. And when you are going to return the book, if you are going to return the book within the stipulated due date, you will not be paying any fine. If you are going to return the book after the due date, then definitely the fine will be calculated and it will be collected. So it is you who have to decide when you are going to return the books. So when you are going to return the book beyond the due date, so you will be having the fine calculations, if any, and then the profile will be updated. So after updating the profile, you can sign out. That ends the process, which has been earmarked with stop symbol. So this denotes the state chart diagram. Then next is about the activity diagram. In the activity diagram, we will be having an enquiry about the books, what sort of activities that you are going to do in the screen, how you are going to do your transaction. That is called as an activity diagram. In the activity diagram, you have the enquiry about the books, check availability of the books, and if it is available, you validate the member, that is the librarian validates the member, and if the book is not available, he will say that book is not available, and it goes to the stop or end. If the book is available, the member will be validated, and if he is said to be a valid member, then the number of books issued to the member already will be checked. If he is not a valid member, that particular member, if he belongs to the same college or a university, his name will be registered, and that registration details will be given to the server. And then after checking the number of books issued, if it has not issued, if it has reached the maximum level, the book will not be issued. If it has not reached the maximum level, the book will be issued, and again the member details will be added and the book status will be updated. Then this is about the activity diagram. Next is about the component diagram. The component diagram, wherein it speaks about many different components and subcomponents. Here you have the book as a component, the search item as a component, transaction as a component, member as a component. So everything is called as a transaction. You want to do a transaction, you want to borrow a book, so you make book as a transaction, search, or it will be checking whether he is a member. If he is a member, it will be checking the components. So this denotes the component diagram. Next is the deployment diagram. In the deployment diagram, you have the client tier and the web tier. In the client tier, you have the web browser, and in the web tier, you have the user interface, that is, how do you code the program, that is said to be the user interface. And then you have the application tier. This application tier deals with the business logic and data access. And you have a data tier wherein all your book details will be stored in the database, wherein it is being stored as procedures, that is called as stored procedures. So these are the tiers that are represented in the deployment diagram. So now, my dear students, let us summarize of whatever we have seen with respect to our case. In the given case, library management system, the design aspects and the use of architectural designs were discussed. The difference between structural diagram and behavioral diagrams and their types were explained in detail. The architectural design of the case, that is the library management system, was discussed with various UML diagrams. I suppose by now you would have been comfortable in designing a particular software. These are some of the references for your future study. Thank you.